after your introduction, we can start the session.
Oh, so hey folks, I hope you guys are doing great. So for the today's session, we are taking a overview of industrial IoT and the role of embedded systems. So for myself, if I introduce, I'm pretty much associated with embedded systems for last 2 years from where I started my professional career. So I am basically by profession, I'm an embedded software engineer. In past, I worked with firms like Lenovo, and then I started working with a startup, and I'm now working with a company which provide its services, core embedded services to their clients in sectors in US, Japan, and other Gulf countries. So uh, by profession, I'm an embedded software engineer. I'm electronic hobbyist. I develop a lot of projects and like look for DIY projects as well. And I'm always involved in how to convert those projects into products. And that's what I do personally. So for the today's webinar, we will be more focusing on the use cases of the industrial IoT, what is exactly IoT, and what is the role of embedded systems in IoT, and how the expansion of IoT is taking place, and what opportunities do we have in this field. So I hope you guys will enjoy the session, and yeah. So if you guys have any doubt, you can always message on the comment section, or you can just raise your voice. I'm always free to answer them. Thanks.
I think we can start.
Okay. So for today's session, we are more focused on how the different use cases are there in industrial sector. So how the IoT is helping us in industrial sector, especially in farming, smart farming, your manufacturing sector, your retail, and etc. So for the today's agenda for the session is the basic IoT overview. What is IoT? And what do you mean by the IoT? What are the different layers in IoT? And what is the market insight and job opportunities that we have in this sector? So different verticals in IoT sector. IoT is the industrial IoT sector. So what are the different verticals that we can scan through, especially into manufacturing, logistic, retail, customer end products, etc. And then last, one of my favorite topics: what is the role of basically embedded systems? So we will be more going through embedded systems at last, and covering some more basic concepts of embedded systems. Um, and I would appreciate if you guys give us a feedback, because we also at last might introduce some practical sessions that might be coming in upcoming days. So let's get started with our first introduction. What is IoT, and uh, how does everyone defines IoT, and what exactly is? So, Shri, can you move to next slide?
Yeah.
So, what is basically IoT? So, when you like Google it out, or you start searching what is IoT, as this word is quite a hype nowadays, AI, IoT, data science. So when you start Googling out like, wow, what is IoT? I need to know more. So you find different definitions for that. Many people try to define it in own way, as experts, or you might see the definitions in early 80s or 90s. So everyone have their own definition, but the definition somewhat explains the same thing. So it's basically the integration of devices over a common network and manipulation of the data that is received by the devices without the intervention of any humans. So what exactly, according to me, what IoT means is like it's the integration of devices. All the devices are integrated through a common network. The common network can be anything. It is like a connectivity platform that helps to connect the different devices, help to bridge the communication gap between different devices. And those devices are able to communicate and manipulate the data without intervention of human beings. So human beings are not interfering in the communication of the devices. Although in IIoT sector, the human importance is quite large to very great extent. We will discuss that in later as well. But during that communication, there is no, yeah. So there is no intervention of human being when there is a communication of information. So if we talk about the first layer that we have in the IoT sector, is the device management platform. That is a device layer that is responsible to fetch the data from sensors or devices. So like suppose, let's take a use case, like you have a smart farming solution that is installed that analyzes how much quantity of water that is required by the soil. Because as we know, if we provide more water, then there is a wastage of water, plus the yield of the crop decreases to great extent. So one of the use cases in IoT sector that is released recently by Microsoft is that their smart farming platform, in which they pre-install soil sensors and different sensors that are responsible to calculate uh, the moisture and other parameters of the soil, and they are transported over to the cloud-based platform where the decisions are implemented, and based upon that the soil fertility has improved to a great extent. So device management platform is the layer where we fetch the data from the sensors or devices. So the sensor is the soil sensor that help us to measure the content of water in the soil. Basically might be a capacitive based sensor or any sensor that helps us to measure the water content in the soil. That when the measurement takes place, so for the measurement you need to integrate that sensor with your MCU or your SoC, or MCU means your microcontroller, or your SSC, that is processor, or any other board that you are controller that you are taking, so that you can fetch the required result from those sensor. There is no interruption, or there is no what you can say, there is no disturbance, and that the bigger that values can help us to take the right decision. So once that integration is taken place and you are able to sense the value from a sensor, that converts the change in any physical quantity into electrical quantity, then comes the connectivity platform. So that connectivity platform is like transferring that data. So once you have received the data from the sensor and the data is been filtered out and it's been accurate, now you have to transfer that data onto a server or a cloud-based platform so that the decisions can be implemented. So that's called as a connectivity platform. So connectivity platform helps you to bridge two devices. You can communicate the data from the soil sensor module to your cloud-based infrastructure or server-based infrastructure using the connectivity platform that is there. So that connectivity platform can be a Wi-Fi, GSM, 2G, 3G, Bluetooth, RF, or any other medium that helps you to transfer the data. So that selection of that medium is based upon many factors. One of the factor is the range. Second factor is the skin depth of the signal. So these are the factors that, and what is the data rate, the data that you want to transfer. So there are other factors as well. So, but the main factors that are responsible to select any connectivity platform is your data rate, is your what power that you have, and your skin depth. Skin depth means the penetration power of the signal. So these are some factors which helps you to take the decision. The third is the application enabled platform. So application enabled platform is where you receive that data from the sensors and you are able to display that data onto a website or a portal, and that website or a portal at the back end is able to take and figure out some decisions. Like for example, earlier I was talking about a use case of a smart farming system recently introduced by Microsoft. So one of the use cases to measure the content of the water from the soil. So when it sends the data to the to the cloud-based platform, then that data, that based upon the threshold values, based upon the previous results, the platform can predict how much water is required by the soil of this area. So the exact amount of water is being fed into the soil so that the crop yield is achieved more as compared earlier when we were supplying more water. When we were supplying more water, then there was a wastage of water, plus the crop yield somehow decreased to a great extent. Similar goes to the nutrients that are required to the soil. So this how IoT can able to help us in industrial sector, help us to generate more profit and revenue in terms of what the industry is all about. So what are the companies that are there in IoT sector? I hope you have somewhat got the idea of what the IoT is all about. If you have any doubts, you can message me or you can ask after the session. So the companies that are involved in device management platform are mostly semiconductor companies or data administrative companies, which are mostly into the field of embedded systems or into chip designing. Those are the companies that are really responsible to design the chips, or embedded companies are responsible to write the firmware that help us to record the data from the sensors and other devices. Connectivity platform is mostly the telecom industries. Telecom industries include your big companies, giants as well, Jio, Airtel, Ericsson, or it can be small scale companies as well that are providing connectivity in small areas, where about 1 kilometer or 500 meters. So it depends upon which company is mostly involved into it. Device and connectivity, there is a possibility that in these two layers, both the companies might be a single company might be working, but that depends upon entire use case. The application is a software or a data analytics companies. Your software and data analytics companies or companies that provide your platform, like Microsoft Azure. So Microsoft Azure is an IoT-based platform. It contains the IoT services that you can really helps you to fetch to fetch the data from the required device, and that helps you to take certain decision based upon the analytics or Amazon Web Services. This is also one of the cloud-based platforms. So these are mostly the software or data analytics companies that help you to take the decision based upon the data that you receive. So this is all about from my side what is IoT. They're more into it. You can add, and definitely it would be great. So I hope the things are somewhat clear about what is IoT and how it works. Shiri, can you please move the slide?
Yeah.
So now let's talk about a little about the market insight. So there is a lot of moves that are going on into the market, a lot of talks that are going on into the market about the IoT sector. So let's see what is the forecast, what is the prediction of some marketing agencies, well-renowned marketing agencies. So according to the IDC forecast, IoT industry will expand or reach to $1.2 trillion till 2020. So that's a huge number. If you see the predictions of IDC forecast and your Garnet about the AI market, then I'm pretty sure you will not get the market more than $1 trillion. So if they are predicting that the market of IoT industry might reach up to $1.2 trillion, so that's a very huge market. That means if there is a huge market, then there is a lot of job opportunities that will be coming in upcoming time. according to one of the predictions by these firms, that there will be 31 billion devices connected worldwide. That's one of the of more predictions. Now we see the how we if we examine today like the rise of the IoT and IoT sector, we can see how many devices are connected. So that can really help us to understand in coming near future, near 2025, we might have devices, connection of devices where about to 5 to 10 billions or less, or maybe more than that. But there is a huge rise in the connected devices that we can obviously predict. By 2020, IoT technology will be 95% of the electronics for the new product design. So obviously, when there is a rise in electronics, then we know the core of the IoT is all about the data that is being fetched at the device management platform layer. So that there you need electronics, there you need circuits that can help us to fetch the data from either from the sensors or different devices and filter that data and make that data feasible so that we can predict the results based upon that. So as the IoT rises to from small scale to large scale industries, I believe that the rise of the electronics will definitely increase, and that's what has been predicted by many marketing agencies as well. So according to Gartner, artificial intelligence will create 1.2 million jobs. So what artificial intelligence? We all know about artificial intelligence. We are quite aware of these terms. But the most important thing for an AI-based model is data. So basically, the data is food for the artificial intelligence, and how we are able to capture that data is through IoT. So artificial intelligence is able to create those jobs because of the real-time data that is available, so that they can train their models based upon the real-time data they have to predict the desired results. So the data is being provided by the IoT technology, the IoT devices. Suppose let's take one case scenario to explain that the concept. We all are aware of the new self-driving car system that is being there. So we have a camera sensor that records, that fetches the data and fetches the image or video and converts that data and send it to the device, where the device sends the data to the model, and that based upon that data the car is able to make the decisions whether it should move right, left, straight or back. So the fetching of that real-time data helps to create better models for artificial intelligence. So therefore, I rather believe when someone predicts that artificial intelligence creates these amount of jobs, I say IoT and AI will create a successful impact. So that's what I have the certain mindset, and if you go into a little deeper, then you understand like IoT plays a very important role if you want the artificial intelligence to be successful. You want please. So let's talk about more about the internet connected devices overview, market insight. So right now, if you start examining the connected market, let's not talk about the world. If you talk about India itself, then there is a significant rise of the connected devices, your smart home automation devices and your coffee makers. They are increased. I would not say that there is a tremendous amount of increase in connected devices in India, but there is increase to some extent. People now adopting these connected devices because it is making their lives simpler. Like let's say take one of the examples of the connected device. Suppose you have a coffee making machine, and you have a like routine that whenever you wake up, you fetch coffee. Whenever you wake up, the first thing that you do after getting fresh is you fetch coffee from there. So what happens if that connected device is connected with your alarm clock? So whenever that alarm clock switch off by the user and it's wake up, and when as soon as it wakes up, the system gets alerted that person is wake up, and it starts preparing the coffee. So whenever you reaches to that place to fetch the coffee is already prepared. So these types of connected use cases devices might not be seen today, but there's a huge possibility that these all devices will be interconnected, and if it be helping people out in some manner, reducing the efforts being put by the user. So if we talk about the connected devices market today, we all have those voice recognition systems, the Amazon Alexa or Google Alexa, that too helps you to integrate some of the devices and control them via voice. So there is some increase of the connected devices in India, and I believe that the connected devices market will soon expand in India. So if you consider the markets like US, Germany, and Japan and Gulf countries which are involved in some tech, so there the market is at boom right now, especially in US and Germany. The connected devices market is increasing dramatically. And I believe it will soon increase, as you can see the graph in 2013, 2014, and 2020. So in 2000, there is a steady increase of the market of the connected devices. And by 2020, it's been predicted by the Garnet that the market might reach up to $25 billion. So there is a possibility that it might reach to that extent. Even if it doesn't reaches, then there is the prediction done by the Garnet about the connected devices clearly predicts that the market is rising. So if the market is rising, then it's obviously creating the market size of the IoT. If the market size of the IoT is expanding and will further increase the opportunities into the sector. Shri, next slide. Hello.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
okay. So let's talk about the different industrial IoT sectors. Till now, we have discussed about what is IoT, what is the market size, what are the prediction by some market agencies, well-renowned market agencies, and how these market insights can help us to predict what are the job opportunities and some market insights about the into the B2C sector, business to consumer sector. We have seen the one of the examples in the connected devices example. So let's now more go into depth about the industrial IoT sector. How does this the IoT helps us in the industrial IoT sector? So I have a one use case here. So one of the use case that I was thrown a light some time back, that about the smart farming solution. So I have explained that smart farming solution, why it's important. So you can see the problem here. What is the problem that is being faced by the farmers today? And these problems are still not curable to a great extent. If you take a real time example, the incident that recently happened in Rajasthan and might happen in Uttar Pradesh in upcoming time, and those are the major problems we face by the farmers, and these problems are faced at a great level, and it damages the crop to a great extent, decreasing the yield of the crop and the revenue. The system is quite integrated. We all know about the system. So what exactly the problem is? We know the problems that are there in the picture itself. Talk about the pesticides or the water control management, or how much nutrients that is required by the soil, and this all things are like the problem that is very much interconnected to one another. So what's the solution being provided by the IoT? Maybe we can make a somewhat a connected market sequence that can really help us to solve these problems to some extent. So that's what the solution provides by the IoT, the connected market, connected farms. So the connected farms, how does it exactly helps? Let's take a more insight about the image 3, where I depicted about there is a temperature sensor, there's a soil moisture sensor, there's a water level sensor, and these sensors are recording the physical parameters of the soil. that is really responsible for a farmer. Like a farmer needs to know what is the soil moisture, a farmer needs to know the water level, the farmer needs to know the temperature of the soil, and these parameters are being fetched by the device, which is at the device management layer, and it's being transmitted to the platform layer using any of the technologies, like the connectivity technology that we have. One of the technologies that we have is the connectivity solution, that LoRaWAN area network. So LoRaWAN area network is nowadays quite famous for connecting the devices with platform in the range of starting range from 800 meters to 1 kilometer to 5 kilometers. So one of the technologies that is like it's starting adopted by the telecom companies for these types of solutions, or when and the device, at the device layer we have low power sensors that consumes very low power, and it can be operated for a longer period of time. And the application layer, we have the server or a platform that helps us to take the decisions and helps the farmer to get rid of these problems at real time. So this how really can help us. So how this solution can help in the various sectors, like soil monitoring sensors, water management, and machines for the rotation operations. Obviously, if these sensors are installed at the prefixed time, then the rotation of these machines that helps to feed the crop at the right time can really help whether the crop is grown or not. And and one of the use case, like I just came into my mind when I was analyzing the smart farming area. One of the use case being developed by one of the electronic giants was the mechanism of drones. Like drones helping the fields to get rid of pesticides or upcoming threats that are there, and it's also helping to analyze at real time what is happening at the field. So that is all about, to some extent, about the smart farming area. There's more to into that, but this is a basic overview about how the IoT can really help into smart farming sector. Shri, can you please move next slide? So we all know, we just recently studied how IoT can really help us help the problems that we face in smart farming sector, to solve the problems in the smart farming sector. But what is the issue? What is the current issue that we are not able to integrate these solutions into our farming sector? As we know, these solutions are quite useful. Somewhere down the line, they might help. But what is the problem that we are not able to integrate these solutions? One of the problems that we have is a fragmented market. If you study the market of the overall farming sector, then if you go to Punjab or Himachal Pradesh, then the farming sector is quite strong there. You the farming sector is quite strong, so people can afford these types of solutions to some extent. But if you go to Uttar Pradesh or some Bihar region, then this becomes really tough for a farmer to afford these types of solutions, because these solutions aren't that cheap. There's some cost that you need to put in for the better results. So that's the one reason. The fragmented market is the one reason. Second reason is the connectivity issues. We all know how connectivity like if you take a certain general use case, connectivity in your phone, the Wi-Fi connectivity, it sometimes break to great extent. So if it breaks at real time, where it is deployed, any of the connectivity, like it's LoRaWAN or a Wi-Fi or radio or Bluetooth you are using, and because of some issue the connectivity breaks, and that at that real time you won't be able to fetch the data to predict the right results. So that connectivity issue is still there, and it's very hard to resolve those technical faults. So these technical faults occur very frequently, especially in smart farming sector, because there is a lot of labor force that is there. So as the labor force is there, as the force is there. So there is a possibility that the devices that you have deployed to collect the data from the soil, they might be disturbed, and they might face a technical fault because of some breakage or some internal fault that happens because of the force that is pushed onto those devices. So there is a high possibility of the technical faults at those areas where the labor work is extensively required in order to maintain that sector. Sensor and equipment costs. So as I already talked, you need to invest some cost. You need to invest some investment in order to generate ROI from it. So you need some good amount of funds in order to equip these devices and this technology into your farm, so you can get the better results. But there is a possibility that many of the farmers wouldn't be able to pre-install these solutions in the farms. So these are the major problems, especially in India, why the IoT farming sector hasn't been able to evolve to a great extent. So, Shri?
Yeah.
So, it's the more insights about the connected farm. So, this is one of the pictures from the Iris Farm Association, that is in mostly that farm association is in Europe, mostly covering countries like Denmark and Netherlands. So that farm association is already working on this solution: smart farming, improving farm returns, enhancing the environment. So how does this work? We have a picture here which help us to see how this one connected technology can help us in various sectors in the farming. And what exactly in terms of devices that are directly installed in the soil, that is what this exactly does. It's a soil moisture and content sensor installed controlling the usage for the optimal growth. So this is basically the concept of the Iris Farming Association that has been brought up to help to understand one technology can help to solve the various parameters in farming sector, various pain points in the farming sector that we face every day. So that's all about from this slide. Rishi, can you move further? So this is mostly the evolution of the smart farming sector. So it's basically how the smart farming sector has evolved over the past few years, and why was the evolution was important, and what might be the future looks like. So today in past we all know there was no stuff like IoT. There was no machine and GPS tracking. So there was no sensors that were responsible to collect the feed from the soil. Still the past generation was heavily dependent on the traditional methods for farming, and these were not possible in that decade. So, but as the technology has evolved over the past few years, now we have solutions that can really help to overcome these problems that we recently saw in previous slides, and what can be the future. So there is a possibility of growth, the evolution of smart farming. So this was one of the research reports being predicted by companies such as Accenture and other firms. So this is one of the insights about how the evolution can take place. That can really help, that connected AG weather solutions, deep weather forecasts, plant sensors, UVA with the sensor payloads. This all help us to fetch the data and take the insights from that data and make the lives better for the farmers. Yeah. So next slide. So this is mostly about manufacturing. So the one of the impact of IoT in industrial sector is on the manufacturing sector itself, because as we in manufacturing you require update of every activity that is going on in the plant at real time, and IoT really helps you to fetch that activity and take those right decisions. Like for example, if you are if there is a automation work going on at one of the slide, and uh, what happens to some because of some technical fault, that automation work stops, and the if that work stops in a factory or a plant, then at for some minutes itself or some hours, it can lead to huge losses for that factory or the plant. So there is two ways to analyze whether the fault can happen, because a technical fault can happen anytime. First is a physical person that is present at that point of time at that situation, or second is you pre-install a device that can help us to track the condition of the machine, so that it can predict whether the fault can happen anytime or not. So in first use case, still there is a high possibility that fault might not be seen by the users, because there is a lot of human errors during the intercourses, and that errors can really decrease the revenue or the profit of the company to a great extent. In second use case, there is a high possibility that the fault might be detected at earlier stage, and that when the fault is detected at the earlier stage, it helps the company to take, or the manufacturing plant to take the right decision. So that is one of the use case where the IoT really helps in the manufacturing sector. So there is an evolution of the how the industrial sector is evolved. We have talked about a lot about the how industrial 4V looks like. I personally believe the industrial 4V is nothing but the intelligent production with incorporated with the IoT technologies, which involves the fetching of the data from various devices, workbenches, and helping us to predict the better results for that. So this how can really IoT can really help us in manufacturing sector. So one of the more use cases that is already pre-existing and is working is on the bench itself. Like suppose you are your machines are producing some devices, and they are loaded into a packets, and because of some fault, those packing of the devices or the food or anything that has been produced, suppose a food item is being processed by the company and it's deployed into packets, and at the one instant that packing stops, and that or maybe that packing is going into a wrong way because of a technical fault. So that analysis of that technical fault, or maybe the break of that belt, can be analyzed to any to one of the IoT solutions. Maybe you can deploy a camera that is a smart camera that is helping us to detect the flaws, that helping us to what is the disturbance in the production line, and that disturbance is being fetched by the camera sensor, taking the right decision and informing the manager or the respective people in the plant, so that they can take steps in advance to stop that breakage. So that is one of the more use case where the IoT and AI and camera solutions can really help us to uh, tackle these types of problems.
Yeah. So just to add to Vikram's point, so these days you see a lot of manufacturing plants being set up, and a lot of companies invest on manufacturing. So any delay in manufacturing causes huge losses to these companies. And imagine a scenario like you are building some millions of units, and at the same like example a smartphone, and if there is a small issue in that smartphone which could not be recognized at the time of manufacturing, and it goes along as Vikrant was mentioning, you could see the amount of losses the company could go in. So these scenarios like on the floor, manufacturing floor itself, if they can be detected upfront and informed, and the floor people can take care of these scenarios during the initial stages itself, you can imagine how useful it is. So that's why you see the evolution of these manufacturing standards going along from manual to more of automated, where everything will be automated. The downside definitely is labor got reduced, but still because of these smart initiatives that are being implemented into these industries, you see lot of improvement and yield going up. And there is very less manual intervention. One person can sit and in remote and see what's happening exactly. And sometimes the manufacturing scenarios are so critical that even a manual person may not be able to look into these things. So a simple sensor kind of implementation or a smart camera kind of thing implemented in that scenario can help the personnel to visualize the things and come up with or take appropriate action if there is any issue. So the industry is basically the manufacturing sector is more moving towards the smart utilization of these IoT cases and the more of automated things. Hope for the students who has joined this session, they need to understand these scenarios, because manufacturing is very critical sector. Whatever R&D that goes in, whatever small prototypes that we build, issues with those may not cause an issue, but any issue in the manufacturing sector could be a huge loss for the companies, and it may not be recoverable in the, easily. So very important. This is one of the booming sector, and industry 4.0, whatever the standards you are seeing here, if the students want to learn and get into these IoT things or the manufacturing side, these industry 4.0 is one of the booming thing which you need to look into. Yeah, continue. Sorry for intervening, Vikram.
Yeah, no problem. Very good point explained by Shri, and he also explained about the losses, which I was trying to explain, and how the losses happens, and those losses can be in millions because of just some small technical fault. So that's obviously that's one of the most major sectors and one of the most booming sectors. And as the IoT is expanding into industry for it obviously will create more job opportunities into the IoT sectors field of firmware development or embedded systems, connectivity, telecom for telecom engineers, and obviously for the application engineers as well. So these types of use cases will obviously is going into creating more better opportunities for everyone.
Yeah, so just to add to Vikram's point here again, so the more of these automation, these days people talk more about Python, the scripting and all. Some of the automation things, scripting languages used is Python here. So students, if you are more listening over Python and the use cases of it, this is one of the use case where more of these automated test cases are written. So when you are testing something on the floor, manufacturing floor, you require a lot of automation to reduce the manufacturing time and also increase the yield. So this is where one of the case where Python comes into picture, and you can imagine how this is used, how critical it is. So that's why the languages, the scripting languages are booming these days, and there is a lot of need for the engineers, skilled engineers in these scripting languages.
Mm.
We'll continue to next slide, Vikram.
Yeah, sure. So this is one of the use case in smart manufacturing facility. that is taking place. So you can see how the monitoring is taking place, managing the equipments using IoT is taking place. Here you can see your machine is being equipped with IoT sensors that can record the internal working of a machine, predict the faults at real time, so that the working of the belt at real time shouldn't stop if that machine fails. This is called as automated inspection in manufacturing sector, and the you can see the RFID sensors being installed to identify the products that are coming in and out. The production line automatically triggers whenever there is a vehicle that is approaching in, and everything is being synchronized, and the system is working so efficiently because of the installation of some IoT technologies into this plant, that the process doesn't stop even if one of the system is about to fail. So that's how is one of the use case being predicted, and it's been implemented in some of the plants, and this is one of the use case being predicted by Microsoft. So next slide, Rishi. Yeah. So this is also one of the use case being predicted by Microsoft itself in 2017, and it's widely in use today. If you talk about the RFID attendance system, so RFID attendance systems is basically you see the cards that helps us to get into the building or a room in or a floor, that in 2015, if you talk about, these RFID systems weren't there to great extent in India, but as the years have evolved, these systems have been pre-installed. Now you see every smart building must have that biometric sensor or an RFID attendance system into it. Some of the RFID attendance systems or biometrics have been now shifted from these systems to other sources like open source NFC protocols, where you just require the NFC device to tap in, and you can get the access. So this how the RFID attendance system is evolving over the past few years. So opportunities in the access control management systems, and specifically in automation, will drastically increase over the period of time. So one of the case which is tried to explain here is to SMS, but nowadays we have more precise way of doing it. Like suppose let's take a use case. Suppose a person is entering into the building, he taps in his RFID, and that the RFID code has been recorded by the device and we send on to the platform, and that platform analyzes whether we need to give the entry or not, and within few milliseconds that decision has been taken and been given the device to operate the door, or it operates a warning or alarm whether the person should be given the access or not. So this is how the RFID systems works in overview of our RFID system, how it does works in the buildings, and it's a booming market, and it creates a lot of opportunities for people like or students like who are into embedded systems, who are mostly into firmware development or electronic circuit designs, or people who are mostly an architect, who mostly are into developing electronic products. So this creates a lot of opportunities for them. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So let's talk about one of the use case that we might not be that much inclined with, or we might not be aware of, is the logistics. How IoT really helps in the logistics systems. So previously, if you see the package delivery, we are able to track. Nowadays, we have systems that help us to track the package. But what if the package is dedicated, and the package requires continuous monitoring? So that tracking monitoring can really help with the help of the IoT chain that can be pre-installed in the supply chain systems. So from the plant to your home, if that IoT system is enabled, you can track the device, you can track your product or device at real time. You can monitor the status of that device. You can really have some analytics based upon the that uh, whether whether you require that device, whether there is any mismanagement that might happen over the way, or the product or device is absolutely fine. So let's take one of the use case. Suppose you are shipping certain item that is quite sensitive to the change of the temperature. So the container in which it's shipped, the temperature of the container is below for minus 40 degrees. So due to certain scenarios, the temperature increases drastically, and when you receive that packet, the condition of that packet is very bad, is pathetic, and you cannot use that. So in those cases, the IoT is very important in the supply chain, because that helps you to track the packet, that helps you to monitor whether the packet condition is feasible or not, and that it really helps the supply chain system as well to analyze the fault, like if that temperature might have increased, because of which the packets have obviously got defected. That fault can be analyzed before the time, and it can be fixed, so that it should not be a loss to the company as well. So there is a overall use case, or this is an overall benefit for both the sides. So that's how smart logistics can really help in IoT sector. So many more app. The next slide.
Yeah.
So this is more of a smart retail example. So if this is one of the examples of Amazon Go. So Amazon Go is a first store where there is no human staff involved during the process, from buying those items to purchasing that items and going home. So that all the system has been automated. So it helps to reduce a lot of pain points that we face in while you are buying items from a retail store. So that example, the concept of Amazon Go is obviously pretty expensive at this point of time, but as the technology evolves in some period of time, I believe this solution will be implemented in other areas as well. So basically, you need your Amazon app to tap in, and as soon as you tap in, the shop is aware the person is there, and you've been constantly monitored by the cameras that are there uh, above your head. And whenever you pick an item, there's a weight sensor that is installed in the stock. So when you pick an item, that the decrease in the weight helps to identify the decrease in the weight, and plus the camera helps to identify which item you have picked in. So as soon as you pick the item, the amount is being deducted from your Amazon account, and as soon as you put the item back, the amount is being reflected into your account. So this how the solution is effective. So when you go in, you doesn't need to be into the line, and you just tap in, you just walk in, you just buy an item, and you just go out. You just don't need to be standing at the queues in order to pay for your items, like all we do while we are shopping at the retail stores. So this helps to for the companies to overcome those pain points that we face while we are shopping from a retail store. So it basically combines of the sensor fusioning, the sensor technology, the sensors that are there, the weight sensors that are there, is being fused with your video analytics, the cameras. So that helps to take the right decision. And there is a lot of deep learning that is involved in this process. So this how the IoT solutions, the overall IoT and AI solutions, is helping in the smart retail sector. Actually, next slide. So we were more discussing about the industrial use cases earlier. So let's now talk about the customer use and IoT products. So, what are the customer use and IoT products that are not implemented at this larger level? In fact, it's implemented at small scale levels. Like suppose you have a water tank where you are where at fixed time the water fills in, and you're you don't know when you need to, you are not aware when or you are not awake when or you might forgot to turn your motor on, which helps to really pull the water into your tank. So that really happens many a times. That is a one of the silly mistakes that we all do, or you can say it's a human error that at certain time we needed to switch on the pump or motor, and we couldn't able to switch on, because of which the water wasn't there in the tank. So that system, that concept, we don't really need to remember the time when we need to plug on and off the motor. We just need to install IoT solution. That's one of the EquaSmart, that's one of the solutions being developed by my previous company. So that what exactly does it is it's a solution where it really helps to analyze the content of the water content into a tank first. Second, it activates the pump at the prefixed time. So you just need to allocate the time, and in 24 hours when the time it comes, it will automatically turns the pump on, and the motor will pull the water into your tank. So that really helps you in the small scale solutions that we have. The IoT solution, that's one solution, is bringing the grab, and it's solving the one of the pain points that we face in day-to-day life. Smart homes. So smart home basically is like controlling all your lights and every electronic device using a smartphone. So a study recently predicted that you can save your electricity bill up to 50% if you turn off your lights when not in use. So this is a human mistake, or you can say a human error, that we sometimes switch the light is switched on even if it's not in use. So that really consumes a lot of electricity, plus it increases your bills as well. So the smart home solutions can really help you to really turn your bills down, and as well as your electricity. So one of the case of the smart home automation is a plug smart. So you need to install that plug, and that plug will turn off when not in use. That plug can be timer of that plug can be set by your app itself, and that plug automatically turns on and off your device. So you don't need to just go onto that switch to turn it on and turn it off every time. So that's how the smart solutions can really help. So see next slide. So we were talking about a lot about embedded systems in past as well, and we are now more focusing about what exactly the embedded systems is. So this embedded systems comes useful at the device management layer, the idea of IoT that I was explaining in my previous slide. So this is basically the combination of both software and hardware components. Okay, so basically you have a hardware components, and you are able to control that with the help of the software that you are writing. So if you talk about embedded systems basically designing something that helps you to do a specific particular task. Okay, like you have microwaves. So the job of a microwave is to burn your food from all the corners. let's take an example of washing machine. The job of washing machine is to wash your clothes 360 so that the washing is effective. So that's it's the job of an embedded system. So in embedded system, when you are designing a product, you need to take care of the cost as well as you need to take care of the power consumption. That's why we always talk about low power embedded systems devices. So the cost and the power is the main factor. So we need to design a product that can be effective, that have reduced constraints, it doesn't have too much capability to do something, but it can perform a specific task or the task that is according to the requirement, and it's according to the budget, and it consumes significantly less power. So that's how embedded systems comes in handy. And you see embedded systems everywhere today, starting from electronic devices to your washing machine to your microwave to your to your smartphones. You are aware of this happening everywhere. And plus, with the evolution of IoT, the embedded systems do have a significant rise in upcoming time. So this how is basically the embedded system. So how this basically helps. So you can see the four main components that are responsible to design an embedded product, and how does that really helps you to write the software to that feed it onto the hardware and controls the basic hardware stuff and helps you the hardware to take the right decisions at right time. Next slide. Yeah. So at last, I would end it like I just given an overview of embedded systems. Although embedded systems more into that, and to be frankly speaking, it's very difficult to explain embedded in just one go. So you when you start working on some projects or you start working in embedded system, that you get to know more in embedded system how the things work out. So how to get started with embedded. So you can like pick up a board, start working on products. Like pick up a board means we all are aware, if college students are there, they all are aware of working on Arduino boards or Raspberry Pi. They are good for the start. I would appreciate, but for industrial point of view, if you see, then these boards might not come in handy. Over a period of time, you need to learn from the knowledge that you get from these boards and switch on to the better boards and better technologies that there in the market. So you can restart from like after you like finished finish exploring some Arduino projects or Raspberry Pi. Afterwards, you can go on to shift onto better boards like 32-bit ARM Cortex boards that are used in industry. Pick up an STM board or a Texas Instrument board, and you start working on that board. Develop firmware, integrate some of the DIY sensors. Then you can develop a DIY project from it, which can really help you to present in college as well. And you basically learn a lot how the sensor works, how the firmware works, how you need to control certain aspect, how things are working at real time. Then you can even go into little deeper to develop more complex stuffs from it, and eventually you can even convert that DIY into a product when your DIY is perfectly working fine. So that's how you can get started with embedded. And if students are interested, definitely me and Shiri would love to take upcoming seminars, especially for people who are more interested in embedded systems and people who are more inclined to get into embedded systems, for especially for the college students or for the master students which are into doing their embedded as their masters. So if they are interested, we are planning to conduct some sessions based upon some industrial boards and some industrial projects that are there. So let us know whether you guys are interested or not. And if you guys are interested to learn embedded yourself, after the seminar, we will provide you some links, some material as well, and there are a lot of sources from where you can grab more knowledge and more stuffs like Hackaday, Doubly Block, Electronics for You, Embedded World, Maker Faire conferences. Uh, Last time I was selected for one of the Maker Faire conferences that were happening in New York. And if you get selected for one of these conferences and you are lucky enough to participate in them, then you get a lot more info what is happening in the world of IoT and embedded. So that's it from my side from this session. I hope you guys really liked it. There's some seminar questions at last. You guys can figure that out. That can help you to understand the difference between machine to machine communication, Internet of Places, Internet of Things. And I hope you guys really like the session. Please do leave comments or your views. And if you guys are interested for upcoming industrial embedded sessions, do let me know, or we can plan some sessions based upon that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vikrant. It was a lovely session. So what we will do is we will encourage them to send a mail regarding their questions or anything, so that we can answer them offline. Because it's being a lengthy session, so might be people might have got little dull, or we will wait for their questions over mail. That would be my suggestion. And as you suggested, we will take more of these live classes in the coming days. So if anyone are interested, they can just reach out to us, and we are ready to train you on any particular board you are interested that is used in the industry.
Yeah, sure, definitely.
Yeah. Thank you, Vikrant. And yeah, just will get connected. Give me some time. Hmm?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Shri.